Have you ever wondered if she still checks her phone, half hoping your name lights up the screen? She might not say it. She might even act like she's moved on. But deep down, there's a tension, a quiet curiosity. What if you're the message she secretly wishes would arrive? You see, most men feel the urge to check in, to send just one more text. But the Stoic man? He pauses, because he knows something most don't. That silence, when grounded in self-respect, isn't weakness, it's presence. And that presence, it lingers. In this video, we're going to explore what really happens when you stop reaching out, and why your absence might be saying more than any message ever could. Let's find out. Number 1. The message she didn't reply to still echoes. Sometimes silence isn't closure, it's curiosity. She might not have replied, but that doesn't mean she's forgotten. You see, that message you sent, the one that came from a place of calm truth, not desperation, it carries weight. Not because of how long it was or how cleverly you worded it, but because of the energy behind it. Most people think the conversation ends when the words stop. But real impact doesn't live in replies. It lives in reflection. Maybe she opened it late at night. Maybe she read it twice. Maybe she even typed a reply, and then deleted it. That hesitation, that pause, that's where your presence still lives. And here's the deeper truth. When you embody Stoic principles, you no longer need the reply to feel complete. You didn't send the message to pull her back in. You sent it as an expression of your inner state, rooted, composed, without expectation. As Marcus Aurelius taught, do not waste time worrying about what others say or think. Be content with the approval of your own conscience. That's how a grounded man moves. She may stay silent, she may pretend it didn't matter. But your stillness in response to her silence becomes the loudest echo of all. And over time, that echo does its work. Not through pressure, not through persuasion, but through contrast. You didn't chase. You didn't beg. You felt, you expressed. And then you let go. That, my friend, is power. So while the message may have gone unanswered, it hasn't gone unnoticed. And in many cases, it's the messages left unanswered that end up speaking the loudest, when they come from a man who doesn't need to be heard to know his worth. And before we move on to the next insight, I want to hear from you. Because every experience, every moment of silence you've lived through carries its own weight. Have you ever sent a message that went unanswered, yet somehow you knew it still echoed on the other side? Drop your thoughts below, or if you're keeping it simple, just leave this in the comments. I no longer need the reply to feel complete. Your story might be the reminder another man needs today. Number 2. Breadcrumbs and half-open doors. A like, a story view, a random, "Hey, hope you're good." These aren't accidents, they're signals. The Stoic man sees them for what they are, not an invitation, but a test of his inner stillness. You see, when she leaves the door half open, it's tempting to walk back in, to interpret every breadcrumb as hope. But here's where you have to pause. Ask yourself, is this real connection or just control in disguise? Because sometimes she's not reaching out because she misses you. She's reaching out to see if you still miss her. Maybe she doesn't want to fully let go. Maybe your silence is louder than she expected. So she drops a little sign, just enough to stir your mind, but never enough to open her heart again. That's the danger of breadcrumbs. They stir your curiosity while starving your clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." In this case, if it is not genuine, do not respond. Imagine this. She left your life, but now she's orbiting again, watching your stories, liking your photos, sending vague messages that say everything and nothing. It feels like progress. But is it? Or is it just a loop designed to keep you emotionally available without commitment? You don't respond with bitterness. You respond with presence. You keep building your life. You stay in motion. That quiet strength, not bitterness, not silence as a weapon, but calm detachment. That's what separates you from the man who keeps falling for the loop. And here's the thing. If she ever decides to open that door fully, not halfway, not just enough to keep you guessing, you'll know. Because real interest doesn't hide behind breadcrumbs. It walks through the door and says, "I'm here." Until then, keep your path clear. Don't wait by doors that never fully open. Don't chase signals. Be the man who stands still, while the world tries to pull him back. Number 3. She misses the emotional safety net. You used to be the one who responded, who reached out, who filled the silence. Now you don't. And that shift? It creates a gap where she once felt seen. A Stoic man doesn't fill it. He lets her feel it. Because here's the thing. She didn't just miss your words. She misses the stability you brought with them. That little good morning text, the way you checked in when she pulled back, the soft landing she always had in your patience. That was her emotional safety net. And now, it's gone. You've stepped back, not out of bitterness, but out of self-respect. You're not punishing her. You're no longer volunteering your emotional labor where it's not reciprocated. This isn't about being cold. It's about being conscious. A Stoic man doesn't confuse attachment with virtue. He understands the power of his presence and doesn't offer it cheaply. He knows that sometimes the most respectful thing you can do, for her and for yourself, is to allow space. Not out of spite, but because true connection isn't sustained through one-sided effort. And now that space is doing the talking. She starts to notice the quiet where warmth used to be. Not just the absence of your words, but the absence of your emotional anchoring. You were the one who steadied the tide when she felt unsure. The one who stayed calm when her emotions ran high. The one who made her feel safe, without her even asking for it. But now, she's left to feel the full weight of that loss. Not out of punishment, but because she never realized what she was leaning on until it wasn't there anymore. The Stoic man doesn't chase to remind her. He doesn't explain. He lets the silence do what it must. He lets reality reveal the contrast. So if you're sitting there wondering whether she notices, trust me, she does. She misses the calm, the presence, the way you carried both of you during rough, emotional seas. And now, she's learning what it feels like to swim without the net. That's when she realizes what she called space before was actually held by the strength of a man who knew how to love without losing himself. Number 4. Curiosity grows in absence. When you stop showing up in her notifications, a question starts to form. Why not? That's the beginning of emotional gravity reversing. The Stoic understands. Attention loses value when it's constant. Rarity makes her wonder. See, most men flood the space. They overtext, over-explain, over-presence themselves. But you've pulled back. You've chosen the quiet path, not out of manipulation, but out of principle. You're no longer available on demand, and that sudden stillness, it echoes louder than any word you could have sent. Imagine this. She used to scroll and see your name. She used to expect the check-ins, the likes, the subtle efforts. It was comfortable, predictable. But now? There's silence. Not cold, not angry, just the absence of noise. And in that space, the mind begins to stir. What's changed? Did he move on? Why doesn't he care anymore? And that's where curiosity blooms. In the absence of answers, the imagination fills the gap. That's human nature. And it's also a Stoic truth. We don't chase answers. We let truth emerge through time and stillness. As Epictetus said, if someone does not value your presence, make them value your absence. And here's the shift. Curiosity is a powerful form of attraction. When she doesn't know exactly where you stand, she leans in, not always visibly, not always with a message, but mentally, emotionally, she begins to circle back in her own mind. That's what happens when you stop trying to prove and just let her feel the contrast. So keep walking your path. Stay composed. Let the mystery breathe. That's what Stoicism teaches us. Not to manipulate the moment, but to become so centered that we don't fear what the silence brings. Because often, silence is the most honest answer and the most powerful message. And now I want to hear from you, because this isn't just about her curiosity. It's about your growth. What have you learned in the moments you chose silence over chasing? Have you noticed the shift in energy, in peace, in how she starts to sense the difference without a single word spoken? Drop your thoughts in the comments, or if you're feeling it, just write, "My silence speaks louder now." Your experience might be exactly what another man needs to read today. Let's keep building this space where calm isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Number 5, your energy wasn't just texts. It wasn't what you said. It was how you made her feel. And now that presence is missing. A Stoic man knows. When your energy was rooted in calm, clarity, and strength, even your silence carries weight. You see, anyone can send a message, but not everyone can offer peace through presence. When you were in her life, it wasn't just the notifications or the emojis or the timing of your replies. It was the way your words felt. Steady, safe, sure. You didn't just text, you transmitted calm. You reminded her of something grounded, something rare in a world full of noise. Now that you're quiet, she notices something deeper than the absence of texts. She notices the absence of energy, that quiet strength that never needed to explain itself, the type of presence that doesn't demand attention, but commands it by simply being. It's like when you walk into a room and don't say a word, yet people feel your composure. That's what she misses. And that, my friend, is what Stoicism teaches. It's not about the noise you make, it's about the weight you carry. Seneca would say, "A great mind becomes a great force." You didn't lose your power when you stopped texting. You revealed it. Let her feel that shift. Because when your energy came from a place of inner stability, not attachment, your silence became a mirror that shows her what she no longer has access to. You're not gone to hurt her. You're gone because you value peace over performance. And that, more than any words you could have sent, speaks volumes. Number 6, she feels the shift, but can't name it. There's something different now. You're not chasing. You're not explaining. You're not trying. She might not say it, but she senses it. And that contrast stirs something in her. Stoicism isn't loud. It's felt. It's the quiet weight of a man who no longer needs to convince anyone of his worth. And that shift? It's not about attitude. It's about energy. You've pulled back without bitterness. You're no longer emotionally handing her the remote to your peace. She scrolls through old texts, sees the difference. You used to respond fast, with care, with eagerness. Now, your silence doesn't feel cold. It feels contained. She asks herself, what changed? And yet, she can't quite name it. Because it wasn't one moment. It was a series of subtle choices. You chose stillness over reaction, space over pursuit, dignity over desperation. A Stoic man doesn't need applause or understanding. He moves with internal guidance, and that unsettles her, not because you're playing games, but because you've stopped playing them entirely. The man who once orbited her is now rooted in himself. She feels it in the pauses, in the way you no longer reach, in how your presence used to wrap around her, and now it doesn't. That shift is your power. You're not punishing her, you're just honoring you. And the more she tries to define it, the more she realizes. The version of you she knew is gone, replaced by someone she never fully understood, but now can't stop thinking about. Number 7. She's watching without engaging. She checks your stories. She scrolls through your old messages. She's silent, but active. A Stoic man doesn't need to investigate. He knows that curiosity often hides behind still screens. See, just because she's not reaching out doesn't mean she's not feeling something. In fact, the absence of action often reveals more than words ever could. You might be tempted to analyze every little sign, who viewed what time, how often, but don't. That's not your role anymore. Your role is to remain centered. While she lingers in the digital shadows, revisiting what once was, you stay rooted in what is, yourself. Think about this. She used to know the version of you who tried, who showed up first, who explained, checked in, reassured. Now, you've gone quiet. You're no longer seeking validation, no longer dancing for attention. That contrast speaks louder than a dozen messages. She might not like or comment, but she's there, watching, wondering, comparing who you were to who you've become. And the silence you hold now? It's powerful. It leaves room for her thoughts to echo. Thoughts like, why does he seem so calm? Or, why hasn't he reached out? So let her watch. Let her scroll. Let her sit in her silence while you live in your presence. Because the man who no longer needs attention becomes the one she can't stop paying attention to. And now, before we move on, take a moment to reflect. Have you felt this shift yourself? Have you noticed her watching from a distance while saying nothing at all? If any part of this spoke to your experience, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Or if you just want to leave a simple reminder that you're staying grounded, drop this sentence. Still waters run deep. Your silence might not get a like or a message, but it's already speaking louder than you think. Let's keep going. Number 8. Your calm now disorients her. Before, she knew your pattern. You'd reach out eventually. Whether it was hours or days, she could count on you to reappear, to bridge the silence, to carry the connection. But now, nothing. No message, no check-in, no subtle signs that you're still orbiting her world. And that change, it's not just silence, it's a shift in energy. She doesn't know where you stand anymore. And that unknown, it disorients her. Because what once gave her emotional control, the expectation that you'd always come back, has now disappeared. You're no longer predictable. You're no longer driven by emotion or impulse. And the man who once seemed easy to read now feels unreadable. This isn't you playing games. This is you evolving. This is you embodying what Stoicism teaches, that true power lies in governing yourself, not others. Your calm is no longer a pause before chasing. It's your new baseline. You've become anchored, unshaken. And when a man stops reacting and starts responding with composed detachment, it shifts the entire dynamic. Your calm used to be temporary. Now it's permanent. You've stopped needing a response to validate your worth. You've stopped waiting for breadcrumbs of attention to feel whole. And that quiet confidence, that grounded presence, she feels it, even if she can't name it. The Stoic doesn't seek chaos to prove his strength. He becomes the stillness that reveals who truly misses his presence. That's why your calm disorients her. Because it's not anger, it's not revenge, it's transformation. And nothing unsettles someone more than realizing the person they once had emotional influence over no longer flinches at their absence. Number 9. When she talks about you casually, it's not casual. Yeah, we don't talk anymore. He used to check in. On the surface, those words might seem harmless, just conversation. But if she's saying your name, even lightly, even like it means nothing, then trust me, it still means something. Here's the truth that most men overlook. Women rarely bring up someone they've completely moved on from. If she's mentioning you to a friend, in a story, or even in a joke, it's because you're still echoing in her thoughts. It's not casual. It's coded. Her words might carry ease, but underneath, there's weight. She's testing how others react when your name comes up. Sometimes she's even testing herself. A Stoic man understands this. He doesn't run back because of a mention. He doesn't chase down what might be hiding in her words. He observes calmly, because he knows. His silence, his detachment, his growth, those are speaking louder than any text he could send. Stoicism isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about mastering your response. And in moments like this, where ego could rush in and say, "She's still talking about me, I should reach out," the grounded man resists. He remembers, not everything that returns to your orbit needs to be entertained. Imagine a woman talking with a friend. Yeah, he was always calm, never begged, kind of just faded. She might say it like it doesn't matter, but what she's really doing is painting the contrast between you and what came after you. And often, the ones who came after don't measure up to the peace you brought. So when she talks about you casually, it's a sign, not for you to react, but to recognize your presence is still felt. The Stoic doesn't need to make noise to be remembered. He lives in such a way that even in absence, he leaves a mark. Let her talk. You just keep living. Number 10. She's waiting, but won't admit it. Pride holds her back. Ego silences her fingers. She won't text first. But don't mistake silence for indifference. Her restraint doesn't mean she's forgotten you. In fact, that pause between messages, that absence of, "Hey, how have you been?" That's where her emotional war plays out. She replays old conversations. She wonders if you've moved on. She checks your profile, but never engages. And every time she almost reaches out, something stops her. Fear of rejection, fear of looking vulnerable, fear that you might not care anymore. You see, a woman's silence isn't always disinterest. Sometimes it's a test, not of your love, but of your steadiness. She wants to know, can you remain grounded when you're not being fed affection? Can you stay composed when attention is withheld? That's where Stoicism becomes your compass. A Stoic man doesn't chase emotions just because they flicker. He doesn't break his values for temporary relief. He lets her wait, not to punish her, but because he understands this simple truth. What's meant for him doesn't require force. You've already spoken. You've shown up in the past. Now, your calm is speaking louder than any "what's up" ever could. She feels your absence, and that feeling, mixed with curiosity and unresolved emotions, starts to pull at her. She won't say it. She won't admit it. But the silence she's keeping, it's not power. It's hesitation. And a part of her is hoping you'll break first. But here's where your strength lives. You don't. Not because you're playing games, but because you've stepped into a different kind of power. The kind that doesn't need to be loud. The kind that doesn't beg for love. It attracts it. A Stoic man knows what's real will return, and what doesn't was never solid enough to begin with. So let her wait. Let her wrestle with the silence she created. You keep living, building, and remaining unmoved. Because that calm she once overlooked is exactly what she's waiting for again. And now, take a moment to really sit with this. Not just as words, but as a reflection of your own journey. How often have you mistaken silence for rejection? How many times have you reached out just to silence your own discomfort? But growth means pausing, choosing stillness over reaction. That's what separates the grounded man from the anxious one. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to leave a comment below. Share your thoughts or simply write, "She's waiting, but I won't chase." Let that sentence be your reminder, your anchor. And as we move into the next insight, keep this in mind. Every moment you don't react out of fear, you reinforce the kind of presence she never expected, but can't forget. Number 11. Your silence becomes her inner dialogue. The longer you stay silent, the more her mind fills the space. What you don't say now speaks louder than any text you could send. That's the power of a Stoic presence. It doesn't beg to be remembered. It just is. Think about it. When you stop reaching out, stop explaining, stop trying to prove your worth, something unexpected happens. She starts doing the talking for you, but not out loud. Internally, in her thoughts. That quiet space where your messages used to be. Now it echoes with questions. Why isn't he texting? Did he move on? Did he stop caring? Or did he finally realize his value? This is where a man rooted in Stoicism separates himself from the average. He doesn't rush to clarify, to comfort, to chase a response. He holds his frame, not to play games, but because he understands that emotional control is more powerful than any long paragraph or late-night call. Epictetus said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." But sometimes, you don't speak at all. You let the silence carry your message. And don't be fooled, she notices. Maybe not with her words, but in her hesitation when someone mentions your name, in how she checks your profile but never says anything, in the way she lingers longer on your last message even though it's old. Silence invites reflection, and reflection often leads to realization. Your silence isn't punishment, it's presence withdrawn. It's saying, I don't need to perform. I don't need to plead. I know my worth. And that kind of silence, it becomes unforgettable. It becomes the voice she can't silence in her own mind. So if you're sitting there wondering if you should reach out again, pause. Ask yourself if what you're about to say adds more than what your silence already delivers. Because sometimes the deepest impression you leave is the one you don't try to make. Here's what most men never realize. The moment you stop trying is the moment she starts wondering. Your silence disrupts her pattern. Your restraint sparks her curiosity. And when you no longer chase, you shift from noise to mystery. The Stoic doesn't need attention to feel alive. He doesn't text to fill space. He lives in a way that fills his own life with purpose. And ironically, that's what draws her back. Not the message you send, but the man you've become by not sending it. So if you're tempted to break the silence just to feel seen, pause. Let her miss you. Let her feel the absence of what she once took for granted. Because in your stillness, She finds the answer she didn't know she was looking for.